how would you advise someone to go through breaking up with a partner then? Or how should people work out if they need to break up? It's a difficult question.
A very difficult question, and and the cop-out answer is the true one, which is only you'll know. But what is also true is sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you're so deluded in your relationship and you're so scared of the other side because you're so terrible at being alone that you've got this thing of like, even if this is shit, it's better than nothing. And that's never true, by the way. Like, no relationship is always better than a shit relationship. Like, being single isn't the easiest thing in the entire world, but it's objectively better than like going to bed beside someone who you hope stops breathing in the middle of the night. Like, just that disappointment every fucking morning when your alarm clock goes off and you feel them move on the other side and you go, fuck, all right. Another one of those days. Here she is. Mrs. fucking breathe through her nose. All right, grand. Another 24 hours in fucking hell, is it? No. Like, when you start feeling that way, it's probably time to... Because the reason I broke up with my ex was because I wished she was dead. And that wasn't because she deserved to die. But I'm like, man, the second I want you to die, or the second I don't want to give you all of myself, you deserve better as well, man. It's like, you got to remember, if you're in a relationship where you don't like the other person, you owe it to them not to waste their fucking time anymore. Like, breakups are always hard, right? We know that because there's no perfect way to do them. I mean, there were. I don't know what was wrong with texting, but apparently we all had a vote. And texting's just not like, I don't get why. It's just so efficient. It's over. No, you don't need an expert. Come on, fuck it, it's done. Who cares? But all right, we had a vote and morally it's wrong. I see. I got it. You know, it's going to suck for a long time, and every second you don't break up with them is like time within that person and your own, you know, healing that you're robbing them from. Like, so I think just,
if you're not allowed to text them, what's the optimal way to try and get it done? Because it's difficult. You've got this thing you want to do. You're talking to a person. You're terrified of being on your own. You don't want to hurt them. You don't want to hurt yourself. It's the perfect cocktail to not make a decision.
Yes, and then there's also the anxiety, and especially if you are in a toxic relationship, which is the ones I encourage people to get out of, you've always got that fear in the back of your head, whether it's valid or not, that the other person's going to do harm to themselves or others if they're in a heightened, saddened, emotional state. And the brutal truth of it is, you are not responsible for other people's feelings and emotions or their actions. And it's nice to feel, don't get me wrong, it's a nice thing to feel that concern for other people. That's empathy. Don't lose that. It's not a matter of not being empathetic, but it's a matter about understanding where your responsibility to somebody else, like them keeping you in a relationship because you're worried that they'll hurt themselves. That's not a good situation to be in. So, I mean, make sure that when you do it, that you've not isolated them. Like, don't go on holiday with them and then be like, hey, guess what? It's fucking over. Thanks for coming to where I live. Just to let you know, it's over day one. I know you fly back in a week, but hopefully you can get over it. Scotland's beautiful. Have a walk. Like, that's not a kind way to do it. Do it in a place where you know they can get support afterwards and where you can. But yeah, I mean, do get out of it as soon as you fucking can. Like, why waste a second?
It's oddly narcissistic to think about the effect that you breaking up with someone has on them. Because people think it's empathy, but it's not. It's narcissism. It's the belief that without me, how could you go on? I mean, I'm so fantastic. I'm obviously your entire world. Yeah, your life before me was essentially just one big warm-up routine, awaiting my arrival. Now the king or the queen is here. And you're just going to be this slobbering mess on the floor, this grey goo.
How are you ever going to get a better dick than this? I'd kill myself too. If I were you and I was losing this, I'd be gone. That'd be the end of me. So, yeah, I mean, that is what it is.
Fuck, man. What about people that break up? I think you talk about this in the book. People that want to break up because they have the allure of novelty, of being single again and just wanting to fuck lots of people.
Well, I think that's, I mean, I've always said what I believe the number one cause of breakups and divorce later on in life is curiosity, which is like, you know, this, but let's be true. Love is brilliant and it's what we all should be looking for in life, but we should always be looking for it in its truest form. Just because we're so desperate to find the real thing doesn't mean we should buy a knockoff one other way or settle for a fucking knockoff one. Love is really, really uh, brilliant to expect. Fuck, I've rambled so much I've forgotten the question. Go again.
That we're talking about whether people should break up because they want to fuck lots of different people.
Oh, well, I mean, should is an interesting way to phrase it, but yeah, like you do get if you fall in love in high school, man, when you've got no other love to compare it to, and you do, and you stay together all that time, and you have kids early on because that's part of the plan. There will be a point when you're 30 or 40 and you've been with this person for 15 years where you just get curious, and it's not in like I think I'm going to do well, but it's you just don't. No, your friends aren't in relationships. One of them goes through a divorce, or you're just so used to this is your new normal now that, now that your kids are teenagers, you can slow down a bit. And suddenly you're a different person than you were several years ago. Of course you are, because you've gone through this. And also the person you're with is a different person because you've all gone through these changes. Now, hopefully you grow together, and sometimes you don't, but you can still learn to be with each other during that. But you get this idea of like, oh man, if I was single, I'd be fucking great at it. Like, oh man, I'd be this. I've got this, and it's all a lie. It's all this illusion in our heads that I used to have a joke about it on stage that I could never get working, which was like when you're in a relationship and you picture being single, you're like a lion that's been raised on a zoo, and it's just you're behind the bars and you're looking at all the humans. You're like, man, if these bars weren't here, I'd get every one of you. I'm the fucking king of savannah. I'd mow you all fucking down. In reality, if you were to drop a caged lion who grew up in a zoo in the savannah, it would be dead in 3 fucking hours. It's never had to hunt for meat. It had zookeepers just bring it out. Like it would die. It would be killed by a fucking gazelle. A gazelle would just run into the side of it and it wouldn't know what to do and it would whimper and die. Like that's people in relationship. But I think they just took that as a massive insult and they didn't like the joke.
The grass is always greener with this stuff, man. And I think, so many people that are in relationships that have been in them for a very, very long time, they don't know what single life is actually like. I'm not talking about the idealized top 5% of being single, the excitement of speaking to someone and not knowing if you're going to get it on, and then they're going back to the house and the taxi ride where you're fumbling around in the back on the way there and being told by the taxi driver to stop doing that. You can't do that in here, mate. And that bit's fun. But the wake up the next day with the hangover and the existential angst, the constant feelings of insufficiency and insecurity about whether or not this person does like you, the fucking time, dear Lord, the amount of time on WhatsApp or on fucking Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, and then all the loneliness as well. I mean, look, being single is a lot of time by yourself, and you have to. If you've been in a relationship for 15 years, motherfucker, you ain't good at being alone. I know it's alluring to you, but go on a fishing trip. Like you're not ready for real alone. Like that's why people get into relationships is because they're so bad at being alone. The other one is the safer option for them, but. I always think when people do get that curiosity of like, oh, I wish I were single. I'm like, man, understand though as well. On the other side, you've got people out here in the single game wishing they'd been in relationships for 15 years, wishing they had that emotional connection with someone and that life journey. Like it's all about perspective and whatnot. But it's also why I feel very secure in my relationship because like I'm very in love with my fiance. She's wonderful. We've been together for 4 and a bit years now. But before her, I lived a life, man. Like I'm not getting curious when I'm 45. Like I did it. It was fun. It's not me anymore. But like I always wanted to settle down and have kids. Like that was always part of my plan. I love children, and I've always wanted to be a dad. But I always knew that that was when you start that chapter, if you do it right, the goal is for that to be forever. You don't want to do it multiple times. Best case scenario is it's her for the rest. And to do that, I had to make sure that I wasn't going to be curious. I had to make sure that when I was 50, no part of my brain was like, I wonder what a threesome's like. I had to make sure I knew.
Dude, I've got a friend who's big into pickup artistry, and I was talking to him years ago about this, and I was like, man, like you put in a lot of graft with women. Like unforgivable amount of time that you put in. He was like, yeah, dude, my future wife better thank me for all of this time and effort I'm putting in. And I was like, please elaborate to me on how your future wife should be so thankful that you've sprayed it around for the last decade of your life. And he's like, well, I don't ever want to be walking down the street with my missus and our 2 kids and look at a Brazilian girl and think, I want to know what it's like to fuck a Brazilian girl. I want to have done it. I want to have ticked off every single one of the different sexual kinks that I've got, because closing those loops gives my future wife the best opportunity for us to make it work. And I'm like, well, that might
and
be...
also, the other way around, man. I'm glad my fiance lived a fucking life before me, man. Like, when people, I find jealousy one of the most insane things in a relationship, especially if it's jealousy on your partner's previous actions before you. Like, I'm a big believer in the second we get into a new relationship, unless it's murder or pedophilia, you've got to forgive me for everything I did before this second, because I didn't know you existed before this. Like, all of that, don't get me wrong, is a fair representation of my character, and I will always, you have to stand by your actions, even the bad ones, and you admit why they were fucking wrong. But, like, my fiance, I write about it in the book, and this was when I wasn't with my fiance. I think I wrote that I really hope she was out there in the world sucking dick right now, because I want her to be good at it, and I want her to not be curious when we're older together. Of course, I wanted her to live her fucking life. Every time she talks about, like, we're very open in our relationship about, past conquests and stuff. And man, I'm proud of it, because I wasn't there. And it's nice to know that, like, man, I got a good one. This is like finding out that you killed a general. Like, this is, I took one of the goats out of the game, motherfucker. This is cool. Man, if you retire Michael Jordan, come on, you got it. That's a badge.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.